Welcome back, fight fans. This week we've got UFC 315, Belal Muhammad versus Della Maddalena, and Shevchenko versus Fiorot in a 2-title fight pay-per-view event. It's a shorter main card with just 5 fights, so let's break down their previous fights, starting at the top with Belal, remember the name Muhammad, versus Della Maddalena. The defending champion of the 170-pound division, Belal Muhammad, opened as a -260 favorite. Reaching 37 years old, Belal's gonna have a big challenge in front of him as the Aussie JDM is 8 years younger and closer to his physical prime than you would think Belal is. But Belal's performances are aging like wine. He's getting better and better, and ever since training with Khabib's team, he's been on a tear. He hasn't been very active as this is just his 5th fight in the last 3 years, but his opponents have been calculated in a way to get him to the belt. In early 2022, Muhammad beat Vicente Luque by unanimous decision, showcasing his improved wrestling through constant takedowns and control, essentially neutralizing Luque's stand-up game. This was the fight we all remembered that we should send to Dagestan for 2-3 years and forget. Later in 2022, he fought Sean Brady, where Belal tried to beat the pillow hands accusations. He got a TKO win over Sean Brady. He was a good opponent for him, undefeated at the time, and now he's gone on to win against tough opponents, so this win really aged well for Belal. But the TKO on the record is a bit misleading because Belal still doesn't have any power in his hands. Some people might forget that this was a standing TKO the ref called just because Brady had very low output against Belal. In 2023, Belal wins another unanimous decision against Brazilian journeyman Gilbert Burns. Belal's high pace and striking was what bested Burns that night, but Burns revealed after the fight that he had a shoulder injury in the first round and that really limited him. And Belal's most recent fight in 2024, he fought the championship fight to take the belt from former champ Leon Rocky Edwards in a unanimous decision win. It was such a dominant performance. Belal scored 9 takedowns and was dumping Leon on his head. Truly earned his belt and really changed Leon Edwards as he went on to get finished by Sean Brady in his next bout. Challenging him for the belt is 28-year-old Della Maddalena, coming all the way to Canada from Australia as a +205 underdog. In Jack's early UFC career, he was getting a lot of finishes by KO against lower competition of the promotion, and as his competition rose, Jack has been getting wins in times he needs them, but in very inconsistent performances. He has been very active with having 3 of his last 4 fights coming in 2023. In February 2023, he fought Randy Brown. Really showed off his striking there, and that was something he was known for from his early UFC TKO finishes. He dropped Brown with strikes and then jumped on him for a rear naked choke and a submission win. In July 2023, JDM wins on split scorecards against Basile Hafez. It was Hafez's first fight in the UFC, and it was really a setup for JDM to win the entire time. A difference in Hafez going for boring control time versus JDM getting the better of him on the feet is exactly what swung 2 judges in favor of JDM, but this fight definitely stirred up some headlines online. Then, in September 2023, JDM wins another split decision against Kevin Holland. Once again, it's JDM's striking that got the better of Holland, but it's still a little worrisome that it comes down to the opinion of judges is what's getting him these wins. And then his only fight in 2024, Maddalena comes back with a very impressive TKO win over Gilbert Burns. His toughest fight to date and faced serious adversity in the beginning of the fight. JDM broke his forearm early in the fight, had to hold it together, and comes out and lands a heavy knee on Gilbert Burns to put him down and finishes him with ground and pound. JDM did suffer a broken forearm that fight. It caused him to sit out a whole while, but now he's back since that injury, so we'll have to see how he reacts to it and how well he's recovered. Belal speaking about his Canelo hands and how he won't shoot a takedown. I don't think he's one to lie, really. I think he plans to go out there and test JDM on the feet, which is a really scary game to play with him. Then again, it seems like JDM had to put in a lot of work and focus on his ground game this past camp, so maybe his striking isn't as sharp as it needs to be, and Belal is right. Who are you backing in this one? Let me know in the comments below. And in the co-main event, we have another title fight, a women's title fight at the 125-pound division. The defending champ Valentina Shevchenko comes into this fight as just a -155 favorite, with the clear advantages being her dominant championship run and reign and the skills to back that up, while the clear disadvantages are her age and her recent performances. Looking back on her last 4 fights, Shevchenko is 2-1-1, with 3 of those fights being against the same opponent, Alexa Grasso. First, looking back to June 2022, her fight against Talia Santos was her 7th consecutive title defense, though she showed very weak ground game that Santos exposed. A highly controversial win, but a win nonetheless for the champ. In March 2023, she fought her first of a trilogy of fights in a matchup against Alexa Grasso. It was a highly contested fight with great striking from both fighters. Shevchenko had the slight advantage on the feet, but it was the weak ground game that costed her here again. In a failed attempted spinning back kick, Shevchenko gave up her back and Grasso was quickly able to secure a takedown and a submission by rear naked choke to become the new champion. Just months later in 2023, the two fought a rematch which resulted in a split draw with no winner. It was a close match for sure, but fans online hated the 47-47 scorecard, and yet another set of split decisions from the judges, and we get a split draw here. And finally, in her latest bout, the final of the trilogy, Shevchenko versus Grasso 3. A year later, in September 2024, Shevchenko reclaimed her belt in a unanimous decision win, finally showing an evolution in her ground game and winning very dominantly 50-45 on all scorecards. And now the challenger, Manon Fiorot, coming in as the plus 130 slight underdog. She's on a tear, and while Shevchenko's been fighting essentially the same fight with Grasso, Fiorot has been fighting great comp and beating former champs and up-and-coming peers in the division. Similar to Shevchenko, she's only had 4 fights since 2022, with the first of those coming against Jennifer Maia. It wasn't great comp here. This girl has been since kicked out of the UFC, but Fiorot did what she was supposed to, winning by unanimous decision 30-27 on all scorecards. Then in October 2022, she fought Caitlin Chukagian. Slightly closer fight where Fiorot was behind quick, losing the first round, but then a strong comeback performance and she secured the unanimous decision win 29-28 on all cards. Then she took a major step up in competition, fighting former champion Rose Namajunas in September 2023. Fiorot won a unanimous decision convincingly, but was it a great performance we saw, or was it more of watching an out-of-prime Thug Rose? And finally, in March 2024, Manon Fiorot fought a young and up-and-comer in her division, Erin Blanchfield. A high-stakes bout with the title fight just in reach. Both fighters had a lot to lose in this one. Blanchfield just didn't seem interested in going for a classic ground game, and whether that was a part of her game plan or Fiorot's striking was enough to deter her from trying, either way, this is exactly what Manon needed, and she was able to get the better of Blanchfield in the stand-up this entire fight. She won this one, unanimous decision, 50-45 on all scorecards, and secured her this title fight this weekend against Valentina Shevchenko. After nearly 2 decades of fights and battles, legend Jose Aldo enters the octagon again this weekend to prove the King of Rio still reigns supreme. He's coming into this fight at 38 years old and as a minus 225 favorite. His activity is not a question. Though he took a year off from MMA and did boxing instead, he came back in 2024 and gave us 2 great fights. But before that, in August 2022, he fought the current champ Merab Dvalishvili, where he lost a unanimous decision due to Merab's insane pace and control. Let's give Jose some credit, as Merab failed 16 takedown attempts, but Jose had no answer for the cage control and pressure Merab had, ultimately leading to his decision loss. After his year of boxing, Jose Aldo came back out of retirement in May 2024 to fight Jonathan Martinez. His speed and strength seemed just as good as when he was in his prime, and fans were shocked at the performance he put on. Aldo took control and beat Martinez by unanimous decision 30-27 on all scorecards. And his last fight was against cage clincher Mario Bautista. Jose had flashes of great striking moments, but Bautista's control against the cage was enough to sway the judges and give him the win. Bautista received a bunch of backlash online and became the main face for a classic boring fighter. Fans didn't take much away from Jose in this loss, and now he's here to face another tested veteran. Across the cage from Jose is a relatively good counterpart. We have Ayman Zahabi. His name may not ring a bell the same as Jose Aldo's does, but on paper, this is a pretty good matchup. Zahabi is 37 years old and riding a 5-fight win streak, with most of those recent fights coming against serious young contenders. In 2023, Zahabi got a first-round TKO against Arichileng very early in the fight. A very surprising finish, but one that propelled him into his next match against Javid Basharat in March 2024, where Zahabi won a unanimous decision 29-28 on all scorecards. And most recently, in November 2024, Zahabi fought UFC veteran Pedro Munoz. Munoz was on a skid, and Zahabi was on the rise, and that trend continued as Zahabi won a unanimous decision against Munoz. Will Jose Aldo have enough in the tank to put an end to Zahabi's win streak? We're gonna find out this weekend. In the next bout, we see a familiar face. It's Alexa Grasso entering the octagon against Natalia Silva. Grasso is almost 32 years old and coming in as a plus 170 underdog. Now, we know her background. Her last 3 fights are against the current champ Valentina Shevchenko, where she won the belt, got a split draw, and then lost in convincing fashion. Let's go ahead and focus on her opponent, Natalia Silva. Silva is 28 years old and a minus 205 favorite coming in against the former champ Grasso. In May 2023, Silva took on Victoria Leonardo, where she dominated the fight and finished Leonardo with a series of head kicks in the first round. It was a bit of a bizarre ending sequence, but she got the TKO. In August 2023, she came back to her first ranked opponent, Andrea Lee, and she won by landslide. She won a unanimous decision 30-27 on all scorecards. She then fought Viviane Araujo in February 2024. This was a bit closer as Silva lost the first round, but then she made some good adjustments to take the last 2 rounds and win a unanimous decision. And lastly, she fought the former champion Jessica Andrade in September 2024. 2024. That was a great striking clinic where Silva really earned herself a unanimous decision win and a fight of the night bonus. Natalia Silva is coming in looking to get a win over a big name in the division and set herself up for a title shot, so let's see how it plays out. And last for us, but first on the main event card, we have tested Frenchman Benoit Saint-Denis going against UFC comeback kid Kyle Prepolec. BSD's betting line opened at a whopping minus 1050 as a huge favorite in this fight, and that isn't for no reason. He's 6 years younger than Prepolec at 29 years old compared to Prepolec 35, and has fought the best in his division while Prepolec is on his first fight back in the UFC since 2019. BSD has been very active with his last 5 fights being in just the last 2 years, and he's been facing top competition. In July 2023, BSD fought tough and up-and-comer Ismail Bonfim, who is known as a young KO striker. Saint-Denis showed great striking, great pressure, and great control, eventually taking Bonfim's back and getting the first round submission win. Following that up in September 2023, he fought another tough young opponent in Thiago Moises, who had fought the likes of Bobby Green, Michael Johnson, and Islam Makhachev already. It was a dogfight, a striking brawl, but at the end of the second round, BSD's pressure was too much, and he was able to finish Moises with ground and pound at the corner of the cage. And then a month later, in November 2023, he got his most iconic win by catching Matt Frivola with a nasty head kick as he tried circling out of range. Another first round KO for the Frenchman. And then in 2024, the tide starts turning on Saint-Denis. He fought UFC legend Dustin Hot Sauce Poirier in a fight where everyone was riding high on BSD. Poirier showed he found the fountain of youth and boxed Saint-Denis' head off, finishing him with a second round TKO. And in September 2024, Saint-Denis fought Renato Not So Easy Money Moicano. It was a beatdown and he was battered over 2 rounds. It led to a doctor's stoppage due to a serious eye injury. It looks like the UFC is giving BSD a tune-up fight and signing Kyle Prepolec on a very short notice to come in and step in on this fight. Prepolec has not been very active, with having only 2 fights since mid-2022. In October 2022, he fought a nobody and won via KO by a head kick in the first round. And in April 2023, he got another first-round KO by head kick and follow-up strikes. There's not much info out there on this guy, and to be honest, I think the UFC found a can for BSD to come in and destroy. What round do you think Saint-Denis gets the win in this time? And that wraps up your MMA Fight Weekly preview of UFC 315 Muhammad vs. Maddalena. Look out for more videos coming soon on my fight predictions and best bets, and more updates regarding the weigh-ins. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with your main event prediction. Thanks for tuning in, and let's enjoy the fights.